Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Loose Superbox Show. This is my page and channel. So if you haven't as yet, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share with anyone you think will resonate and land with this content. So in this week's episode, I am going to dive straight into how to stop self-doubt and to how to reconnect with your intuition. Now, what can happen so much of the time is we say things in the personal development space like, trust yourself, trust your intuition, connect with your higher self. You know what to do deep down. And all of that feels totally true. And when I give that as advice, I genuinely mean it. But here's the thing. When we have got unconscious programs, subconscious habits, wounds, triggers, and beliefs running the show, sometimes trusting ourselves can lead us in the opposite direction to the thing that we want. And then we doubt ourselves, question ourselves, and go around in circles. So in this week's episode, I'm going to dive into how to really break self-doubt and how to move into that space of trusting and reconnecting with your intuition so that you can feel like not only you're on purpose, but that you're aligned and moving in an energy that feels good, that serves you, and that's moving in the direction of your dreams and goals. So without further ado, let's dive in. So self-doubt has always felt to me like this kind of crippling questioning. So whenever I doubt myself on something, it's not that I don't necessarily take the action. I just take the action and then get instant regret kind of feelings like, oh God, was that the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Did I act the right way? Should I have thought about that differently? Like very much a rumination energy. So when self-doubt shows up for me, it very much comes in a rumination energy, or it comes with a very cynical energy. So what that feels like to me is, oh, I've got this really good idea for a post. Yeah, but like that's not going to go viral and no one's going to think about that. And both of them are a really critical voice. Both of them are a really harsh, judgmental voice that I hear in my head that says these kind of snidey comments. Now, what might blow your mind, I was talking to some clients this week about this actually. What might blow your mind is that not everybody hears voices. Not everybody hears voices in their head. Sometimes people get a sense of things, a felt sense of anxiety or apprehension or uncertainty. And so it feels like self-doubt. So you might hear self-doubt through critical words, you might feel self-doubt. And in my case, I get both. But when that shows up for me, what that's really a sign of and really something and a clue and a map for me to look at is a map to where there are still unhealed parts within me or where there are still wounds within me that are looking to be seen or be heard or be recognized or be witnessed. So whenever we have doubt about an area, it's not because we're not good enough. It's not because we're not worthy. It's not because we're not capable, but it might be that we don't believe that we're worthy and capable and good enough. So it's not a fact. Self-doubt is not a reflection of truth or fact. It's just a feeling that is like kind of pointing you and saying, hey, look in this direction because there are still some things that you don't believe to be true, or there are still some things here that need to be healed and worked through in order for this to feel like a really aligned move or an aligned decision. So self-doubt creeps up as a good thing. Like, first of all, I think that's what we need to do is we need to reframe self-doubt from this negative, prohibitive thing that's holding you back from living this dream life and actually looking at self-doubt as a way to see a map to where there's still work to do, a map to where there are areas of our life that we want to shift our belief system, where we need to get to the unconscious root cause, like I do with my clients inside root cause therapy, and help shift those root cause beliefs so that we can make conscious choice and move forward in that direction. So first of all, recognizing when self-doubt shows up, witnessing and recognizing that self-doubt isn't necessarily a bad thing, that can be just such a fundamental and powerful first step in itself. What happens when we normalize self-doubt, and it is normal to experience self-doubt. It is very common. It happens to every business owner. It happens to most people in relationships. It happens to parents. It happens to every single client I've ever worked with. But just because we normalize it doesn't mean we should stay with it. And I actually am going to do a reel or a TikTok or something this week about how some statements that we kind of hear in the coaching space or hear in the mindset space get heard a lot. Things like, oh, you're never ready, start before you're ready, or it's not the right time, or there's never a right time. And I just strongly disagree with those things. So self-doubt is the same thing. People say things all the time like, oh, self-doubt is normal, move forward through the doubt. Whereas I'm like, or you can look at the doubt, look at what the doubt is trying to tell you about what you believe, about what you know, about what you feel, and work through what it's trying to tell you to shift, change, and rearrange that so you can move forward with conviction and without doubt. That would be probably what I'd recommend. So in order to do that, this brings me back to my favorite 3-word mantra. We have to feel so that we can heal, and then we can deal, right? And so many of us feel the self-doubt. It overwhelms the nervous system. It kind of rushes up. We're like, oh no, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, it can't be good enough, or it's not the right thing. And then we just put the brakes on. And that is because it doesn't feel safe. It's not because you like the idea of it and you're just a bit doubtful. That's not how a nervous system responds to something it's a little bit unsure of. Self-doubt is often a label or a cover-up for actually limiting beliefs, for parts of us that are still broken, parts of us that still need to be seen or heard or witnessed or healed. So when that comes up for you, your job is not to run from it, to push through it, to drive yourself forward. Your job is to look at it and witness it and really understand what it's saying to you. And this is where the hard bit comes in, because I want all personal development, all healing modalities, everything in the coaching space. I would love for it to be totally self-led. I would, because I really believe in empowering people to be their own miracle workers, empowering people to be their own healers. Because I remember, I think it was my breathwork teacher, Lisa, saying to me, you wouldn't be called to heal unless you were a healer yourself. And I truly believe that. You would not be called to go on this journey unless there was a part of you that was going to pay this journey forward. But what happens so much of the time is that we actually aren't equipped with the skills, with the knowledge, with the resources, with the tools in order to actually heal, feel, and deal. And so what happens is we stay in the crippling self-doubt, or we think that we're so broken we need to spend years and years and years and years and years and years and years in therapy in order to be able to move forward in the direction of our goals and dreams. And neither of those things are true. But what probably will be required is moving into the space of working with a coach, a life coach, a root cause therapist like myself, maybe a psychotherapist, maybe a psychiatrist if needed, maybe a breathwork teacher, maybe a Reiki master, and this is the thing I encourage with all my clients, inside my Becoming program, which is my deep healing program, the module in there, which is really getting familiar with somatic work, getting familiar with healing work, getting familiar with types of therapy. What I recommend is they try a lot of things. Like, clients can do root cause therapy with me as part of their Becoming package. They get that included. But that is not the only modality. It's not that way or no way. The healing modalities and the way that you are going to move through your own journey of healing, feeling, and dealing is different for everyone. The challenge is we don't often have those skills and tools to do it by ourselves the first time round. And that's where you'll often be called to work with practitioners. And if you aren't working with practitioners, this is why you might be staying stuck. So why I love root cause therapy so much is because it gets straight to the root. So we will understand what beliefs are holding you back, both from our conscious work, and I'll do some unconscious work with you to work out what beliefs are driving the show, what beliefs are causing this self-doubt in this area of life, whether it's in your business, your money, your relationship, or your parenting, for example. And then through that, we dig deep into the unconscious about what is the root cause event, because it's never about what it's about. I've literally been saying that for 20 years. It's never about what it's about. The reason you lose your shit with your partner that night is nothing to do with what your partner's just said, and everything to do with the emotional tolerance you've had in that day, in that week, and everything your partner has done in that day and in that week that has led you to that point in where your nervous system can no longer handle it, right? The same thing. We're often not mad about the thing that we're mad about. We're mad about something it triggers within us that makes us feel not good enough. It makes us feel wounded. It makes us feel shame, or it makes us feel an uncomfortable emotion we don't know how to feel. So when we do this inner healing work, it's so that we can get to the root cause and clear the root, so that when we're responding to things in life, when we want to make that big decision, when we want to step forward, when we want to make that next move, we're making it from conscious choice. And it's not because it will always be without doubt, but it will feel a lot more aligned, a lot more on purpose, a lot more with conviction, right? Because we're not being triggered by something that is years old, months old, and has nothing to do what it's to do with. And this is why we have to heal, feel, and deal, so that we're not creating our future life from our past traumas, and we're not living our present life consumed by energies that are still alive within us from years and years and years and years of life experience. And instead, that we're almost able to bring a clean energy and a clean perspective into when we want to make these bold moves and big decisions in our business and in our life, right? And so I love root cause therapy because I think it's a great combination of lots of therapies put together. So if you want to find out more about root cause therapy, you can find that on my website, lucysuperfox.com/RCT. If you would like to join me for a free discovery call to find out if it could be a fit for you. And remember, guys, I offer a free discovery call because you have to be a fit for me as much as I have to be a fit for you. It has to be a vibe between us for it to be a good coaching partnership. So if you want to find out more about that, I'll drop the link below in the description. So once we then get to the root cause and we're able to heal and feel and deal, and we're doing that, right? That never ends, right? It's an ongoing process. There'll be seasons where that's really intense and where that's your priority and focus, and seasons where that happens maybe once or twice, a month in the background. The key though, is that we're willing to be where our feet are and we're willing to heal, deal and feel in the moment so that we can move through. Because the number one reason people are disconnected from their intuition is because they're not actually feeling how they really feel in the moment. They're not able to tap into higher levels of consciousness because the nervous system is responding to something that's a trauma from 5 years ago. And that's what happens when we move into that kind of survival energy where we shut down because we are constantly triggered, constantly ruminating, constantly worrying, constantly in doubt, constantly in anxiety, constantly in fear, constantly in performance mode where we need to keep striving and growing, improving and trying. When we're in that energy on a consistent basis, it's very difficult to connect with a higher self, a higher consciousness, a God consciousness, because we are in such a frazzled state of the nervous system that even on a nervous system level, we are not in that place where we tap those parts of the brain, right? So even if you argue that that is an older part of the brain, a part of the brain that, you love, that it's just about spirituality, it's impossible to tap and access that when we're in survival mode. Because when we're in survival mode, accessing those parts of our brain shut down because we are hyper focused on staying alive. So when there is trauma still present, or we are being triggered into experiences from our past, or being triggered by beliefs, situations and scenarios, and self-doubt can be a mirror for this, a powerful mirror for this. What's actually happening is we're stuck in survival mode. And that's why we've lost our connection with our intuition. That's why we've lost our connection to our higher self or higher purpose or God consciousness, and whatever word fits good for you. So the answer then to re-tapping into your intuition, to reconnecting with those better parts of yourself, and by better, I don't mean improved, I mean the ones you like more, your favorite version of yourself, your higher self, your God consciousness, whatever word vibes with you. The answer then is to move out of survival mode, to bring that regulation and peace to our nervous system so that we can tap those conversations, so that we can access that information, so that we can feel safe enough in our physical being to trust in things beyond what we can see, to trust in the unknown, to trust in the season beyond the next season, beyond where we are right now, because we're not so hyper focused on where we are right now and what we do right now and how things are right now, because we're not in survival mode. And so this is the number one thing I'm seeing so much with entrepreneurs, is they are stuck so much in the hustle culture. And even if they know they're in the hustle and they don't want to be in it and they're trying to get out of it, what's happening is their nervous system is still in that state of fight, flight, freezing and fawning. And it's happening so cyclically, it feels like normal life. And you'll call yourself a workaholic, and you'll call yourself an overachiever, and you'll call yourself an A-type personality. And what's actually happening in that moment is a massive radical state of nervous system dysregulation. We have to bring the body and the nervous system back into a state where it can fluctuate between regulate and dysregulate, right? Life isn't about, just side note here, life is not about living in a regulated state. Life is about bringing capacity back to your nervous system so that once you've regulated it, you've brought it back into regulation as a baseline, you can then put yourself in stressful situations, expansive situations, big decisions, things that challenge you, and your nervous system will expand and stretch, and then you will come back to baseline of regulation, right? So just wanted to put that in there, because I think sometimes people think that the answer is just to live this really boring regulated life. But regulation is the foundation, right? Let me say that again. Regulation is the foundation. If you do not have a foundation of safety in who you are, what you're about, your place on this earth, your worth on this earth, and a safety in a sense of being able to slow down and stop, I promise you, you will never, ever, 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 ever get out of survival mode. So we have to bring that safety foundation into how we feel about ourselves, into the way we think about ourselves, into what we believe, so that we can move into regulation and that feels safe, so that we can create that peace and ease and flow in our nervous system. And from there, then we tap our higher self, then we tap our favorite self, then we connect to God consciousness. Because whilst we are in survival mode, one, like I've said, the functions of the brain do not work the same way. But two, we are going to be hyper focused on whatever is in front of us. So if it is a big goal we need to hit, we're going to be in that chronic state of like fight, flight until we hit the goal. And then we're not going to drop into regulation once we hit it. We're going to drop into burnout. We're going to drop into that kind of like dorsal vagal shutdown, emptiness, disconnection, lackluster, not feeling it. And then we're going to swing ourselves back into hustle mode to get ourselves going again. And we end up on this pendulum swing of overperforming and burning ourselves out and only being able to take a rest when we're fucking knackered. And like I said in my last podcast, that is not the way to build an aligned, authentic, abundant, free-flowing goddess vibe business. If you want to spend the next 10 years of your life cycling between burnout and achieving goals, fucking go for it. But listening to my podcast isn't going to get you anywhere. If you are ready to build that aligned, authentic, on purpose business led by intuition, connection to your calling, purpose in your profession, you are in the right fucking place. Okay. So connecting with our intuition then isn't this one magical moment where we sit down and go, intuition, come to me, right? It's about the small things. When your nervous system, mind, body, soul, all of things feel safe enough just to be, to sit in quiet, in peace. And this often happens for people who are high performing, ADHD, sitting still, not a vibe. You might get this when you're walking, you might get this when you're driving. So a version of being still might be different for every person, right? Like I don't get ideas when I meditate. I get ideas when I walk though. It's one of the reasons I don't listen to anything when I walk to Pilates and back, because the ideas are like the idea for this podcast. So when you're in stillness or you're in slowness or you're in an energy where you feel safe to be in that energy, but that's when the ideas drop in. That's when you're able to connect to your version of whether it's your favorite self, God consciousness, your intuition, your higher self, whatever word is a vibe for you. That can only happen when you feel safe to be alone, as you are, who you are, in life right now from a place of acceptance. Now, it doesn't mean your intuition won't give you nudges and won't give you guidance at other times. For sure it will. But for me, the best ideas I have, the biggest connection, the most joy, the most satisfaction I receive comes from when I am in that energy of it's good just to be where I am right now. And then the ideas flow like nothing else. But when we are constant on the move, constantly striving for something more, constantly in the state of performance. And in fact, I read a great quote from the holistic therapist yesterday that said, a nervous system cannot heal in an environment that demands performance. It needs to heal in an environment that commands presence. And that is exactly what it's like when you work with someone like myself as a root cause therapist. We're there just to hold space for you. We're there to facilitate for you to just be in that moment, to process what needs to be processed, to deal with what needs to come up, and then to move through it and to move forward. So if you're not, and if you haven't been through your healing season, just a side note here, you can unlock the Becoming course, which is the Deep Healing Transformation Program. Inner transformation equals outer manifestation. You can find out all the details. I'll drop the link below, lucysuperfox.com/becoming-exclusive. It is only open for 2 weeks. So I'm only going to open this for 2 weeks enrollment. It does come with a one-to-one option where you can work with me. We can do root cause therapy and one-to-one life coaching sessions in that. But like I said, this is only open for 2 weeks because then I'm moving into a launch of a brand new program called the Goddess Code, which is the 7-step strategy to having it all. But the Goddess Code is for the women who have already embraced the healing journey, who have already done the deep work, or who are doing the deep work and want to partner that with an aligned, authentic business, a beautiful, loving and deeply connected relationship, and who want a banging bod and an absolutely booming bank balance. So if you haven't done the deep healing work yet, Becoming is the place I would go. And I will drop the links to that below, and also drop the link to Goddess Code below too. So once you tap your intuition, everybody's interpretation of what comes through is very different. So some people are like clairaudient, so they hear things. Some people are, claircognizant, clairsentient. Like there's lots of different ways, and you can look at all that online. But ultimately, whether you might see things, you might feel things, you might sense things, you might just know things. I hear things and I know things. I don't often see imagery in my mind, although sometimes I might get a memory jogged that I'm like, that's an interesting memory. why is that coming up? And then a client will say something and I go, I know exactly what I need to tell them. So intuition is about working with all parts of you, right? And bringing all the greatest parts of you, but also then maybe the most wounded parts of you, and bringing them all to the table in a place of authenticity and being willing to listen to the version of you that has your best interests at heart. Now, I am not an IFS practitioner. So internal family systems is a model of psychotherapy, well, a model of therapy and used a lot in psychotherapy. And I'm not an IFS practitioner yet. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But what I can tell you about IFS, and I did IFS with my therapist and I found it was great. And what I really liked about root cause therapy when I trained in that is I actually felt it was very similar, just different words and language, but I actually felt it was very similar. But what I love this is that all parts of you are valid. That's really the concept of it, that all parts of you are valid, and all parts of you, the versions of you that have been created throughout your life experience, they all come to the table to offer you the best version of you. But what happens is, if a version of you has been in survival mode for too long, or has been in an energy where they've had to kind of run your life, they sometimes think they are your higher self, right? So for example, you could have a control freak version of you and she thinks that she is your higher self. She's so commanding, she's so loud, she's so dominant that you have no idea the difference between her and a gentle nudge from the universe. And that's also okay. But what that signals to me, and you'll know the difference because, and I remember my therapist saying this to me, I think I've said this a few times on this podcast, your anxiety sounds like meh, 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 meh. Your higher self does not sound like that. You know, it's very calm, it's very connected, it's very collected, it's very chill, it's very easy, it's very flowy. And it's usually the opposite advice of the thing that the other versions of you want to do. And it's really annoying because you question it and you doubt it. But here's the thing about your intuition. How do you explain it other than it's for your highest good? So what I have done, right, through this big healing journey, through being able to regulate my nervous system and move between periods of expansion and regulation in business and expansion and regulation in my personal life, I'm actually about to go through a period of expansion with my body goals. I'm actually going on a deep kind of gut and hormone protocol to really bring some balance. I really want to feel more optimized. I want to next level myself, and that really feels like the next level. Again, all very intuitively led me down the path, then got me to the place, and then I made the decision from all parts of me. But my intuition knows what is best for me. She knows what is leading me to the next thing. And sometimes it's an unknown. Sometimes it's not something I've seen yet. And in fact, the best things are unknown. You know, Joe Dispenza always says, and if you're not a big fan of Joe Dispenza, why not? But he says all potentials exist in the field. All realities exist. But if you keep choosing the same one, that's on you. And so what I love so much about when you can tap your intuition, when you can connect with your favorite self or your higher self, is that you give yourself options around which potential you choose. But when you allow the more human parts of you, the older versions of you, the more anxious versions of you, the critical versions of you, to run the show because you've not put the time in and the commitment to doing the deep healing, to actually transforming the trauma into your greatest superpowers, into the energies that are going to move your business, body, and life forward, what then happens is you create the same reality over and over and over and over. And being able to connect with your intuition is one thing, and that's what comes from the deep healing work. But two is actually then listening to it. And it's scary and it's overwhelming. And this is where sometimes working with a coach or a practitioner or a therapist or whatever can be so powerful, because they can often say to you how they might interpret the messages that you're receiving and what that could mean for them. That doesn't mean they're right or wrong, but sometimes having somebody to bounce off can change the game. So once we've got that connection with our intuition, how do we harness it? And look, everyone's experience of this is different, but my experience of tapping my intuition is just knowing when it comes forward. Like I said to you, knowing that when I go for a walk and I'm moving my body and I'm going to do something like Pilates, not so much like walking around the block, that wouldn't do it for me, but walking with purpose, moving in a direction, going to do something I love, lights up my brain, and all these business ideas come together, all these sense of flow. I know exactly what I want to say in podcast, and it makes things easy. Now, look, your human design will have an enormous impact on how you interpret and receive messages and how you act on those messages. So if you don't know what your human design type is, I put my friend Becky's website below, thehumblewarrior.co.uk. She has a free human design calculator. And then if you want to do a reading with her to interpret that personally, which I would highly recommend, because again, knowing yourself and getting to know yourself at a really deep level is then one of the amazing things about connecting with your intuition. The deeper you know yourself how you work, how you think, how you like things, the trauma that has driven you, the trauma that's, reshaped you, the life experiences that you love, the life experiences you didn't love, what your preferences are, what your choices, all of those things together combined allows you to become the most fullest, authentic, most powerful, vibrant, excited, passionate version of you. And so getting to know yourself is a big part of that. But my intuition, when I have it, this is the thing. If you're going to follow it, you have to commit to follow it. Because what happens so much of the time is we'll pick and choose, and then we wonder why things are not moving in the direction that we desire. So one thing that I have chosen to do is follow my intuition unconditionally. So my intuition told me 2 weeks ago that I wasn't in a place to record a podcast. So I took a break. For the first time in 40 episodes, I took a break and missed a week. Did I love that? Did my need to show up, my need to have patterns, my algorithms, didn't love that, I'll be honest. But I intuitively knew that it was the right move. And it did, because what it's allowed me to do is really pivot where the content was going and move in the direction with the things that are on my heart to say to you right now. So with your intuition, this is a word of warning. Either choose to listen or turn off this podcast and choose not to listen to your intuition at all. But here's the thing. You know yourself and you better than anybody else ever will. People will know more than you. Therapists, practitioners, healers, teachers, friends, they will know more than you about topics, about goals, about situations. But if you can really tap and connect with your favorite self and your intuitive, your highest version of yourself, and whatever that looks like for you, through doing the healing work, through doing the transformative work to move out of survival mode into regulation and building that foundational safety, what you will create is a magic partnership that will change everything. And I mean everything. And that, my darlings, is what we are going to be doing inside the Goddess Code when it launches. So if you want to find out more about the Goddess Code, because you have done that deep healing work and you're ready to step into your intuitive power, that purpose in your profession, connection to your calling, the banging bod and the booming bank account, then you can check out the details and join the waitlist at lucysuperfox.com/goddess. So there is so much to come on love, on money, on body, on business, from my heart, from my higher self, from energy, from this magical place. And I literally cannot wait to share it with you. So I hope you love this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you want me to talk about. If there's any hot topics that are just burning for you, make sure to let me know in the comments. And I will see you on the next episode.